Hello Africa, it is Wednesday, the 4th day of October 2017. The country is just 21 days away from that much awaited, much anticipated presidential rerun. Liberia is also preparing for their general election. We'll have the latest on that. Of course, this is Bottomline Africa. My name is Yusuf Ibrahim. Apologies for coming in a bit late, but the show will continue. And tonight we'll have a very interesting topic. It has everything to do with corruption in Africa. In our Twitter poll, we did ask you earlier, who do you blame for corruption in Africa? Is it the government, is it foreign interest, or is it Africans themselves? Let me just take that again. Who do you blame for corruption in Africa? And we gave you three choices. That is, if you're blaming the government of the day, or foreign interest, or Africans themselves. I'm going to engage political analyst and foreign affairs analyst Mark Bichache, as well as Taye Belgum, who's going to come to us via Skype all the way from Kigali, Rwanda. But first things first, we're going to look at a very interesting topic as well that has everything to do with, Africa and French connections. And Kenya is set to host the second edition of Africa-France Summit beginning tomorrow right here in Nairobi, Kenya. The summit will bring together over 200 French companies in the country for investment opportunities. Now, the business meeting is projected to bring together over 2,500 investors from Kenya, France, and other African countries. Now, the summit is being held under the theme, The Encounters Africa 2017. French companies dealing with agriculture, manufacturing, energy, education, among others, have signed up to attend. Now, official data shows that Kenya's exports to France grew 12% to a whopping 5.6 billion shillings between 2010 and 2014, while imports rose 20.4% to 22.4 billion shillings in the same period. Now, before we get to the details of that story, let's take a look at some facts and figures about, French companies in Africa. And they have various companies already in Africa. There are Total, there's Lafarge. Total, of course, deals with petroleum and petroleum products. And then Lafarge there, as you have already seen. I'm going to engage Owen shortly is going to tell us more of those companies. We have the Peugeot, the car manufacturing company. Carrefour is also another company that is based in Africa, as well as Bolo Logistics. And then I think we have about 200 companies that are already based in Africa. Alliance Française there is something that even Kenyans are well familiar with. Now, in studio tonight, we have Owen Koimburi, who is the managing partner of Maz's company. It's a company that has connections with France. Now, Owen, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Yusuf.
Now, let's start with this France-Africa Business Summit that is expected to start tomorrow. A lot of people are asking why Kenya has been given such a, highly ranked event at the expense of these Francophone countries in Africa?
Yusuf, as a matter of fact, this very, very important conference is taking place in three cities in Africa, starting with Abidjan,
yes.
Tunis, and Nairobi. So those are the three cities that the less ranked countries conference, as is called, is taking place now. In Nairobi, is starting tomorrow and ending on Friday.
Now, being a stakeholder here, what are some of your expectations from this summit, and how is Kenya and by extension Africa stand to benefit?
Well, to start with, Yusuf, it's important to note that this is first and foremost a business development and networking forum that is going to bring together over 400 CEOs of French companies with an equal number, probably about 3,500 local CEOs in Africa.
Yes.
The theme of the conference is just deepening the partnerships of African companies and French companies.
Yeah, and speaking about French companies, Owen, there are about 200, I believe, in Africa. There are also a number of them in Kenya as well. And if you look at the numbers here, Kenya exports about 5 to 6 billion shillings worth of trade, and that is between the year 2010 to 2014. And the imports from France, it stands at 22.4 billion shillings. So critics might say, French, and of course, by extension, the French government is out to benefit more in Africa. Where's the balance of trade, basically?
Well, numbers sometimes can give different perceptions, but there is truth in the sense that currently the trade is more or less in favor of France, but there are many things that are changing place in terms of the volumes of trade. There's also some of the unquantified partnerships and benefits, like France and Kenya have signed scientific and technical cooperation agreements, which perhaps you don't see that. But there are many other aspects of trade and partnerships, including setting up of these companies. I think 2 years ago, there were only about 40 companies in Kenya, French companies, but now there are over 70 of them in Kenya. Therefore, you see there is a growing deepening of the relationship. And as you are aware, in fact, the figures that you have stated, there has been an increase of 12% in the 2 years that you mentioned. But it is true because of just the nature of the economies. One is a developing economy, the other one is a developed economy. And it's not so much just Kenya and France, it's quite a number of other countries where...
And Owen, speaking about other countries, we've seen a growing interest from the Chinese, specifically in African countries, including Kenya. We've seen interest by, the likes of America and the rest. So do you think with this kind of summit, the France-Africa Business Summit, France also is trying to make sure that they're not left alone or they're not left back?
I think, Yusuf, one needs to look at the geopolitics that are taking place currently. You mentioned about the interest that, for example, the Chinese, just recently we had the TICAD conference here, which was the first major Japanese trade and development conference taking place in Africa. Then, of course, even this year we've had the UNCTAD conference taking place in Nairobi. Again, this is the first time that it's taken place in Africa. So I think one sees a tendency and a natural realignment. I think it's something that we should be proud of as Kenyans. And essentially it's because of where we are. Kenya is the gateway to the rest of East and Central Africa, naturally because of where it is situated. And also because as a hub, most events take place sat in Nairobi. So yes, I think what you have said is true in terms of most developed nations wanting partnerships with Africa, but Kenya is certainly currently a natural gateway to these other parts of Africa.
Now, I understand this summit will last for 2 days, that is tomorrow as well as Friday. After that summit ends, do we expect to see new French companies set base in Kenya?
I think already there are, Yusuf. There are quite a number of I think the biggest one that we've had is Renault, which is the French vehicle manufacturer. Vehicle manufacturers are coming back to Kenya after many years, over 20 years. And Renault is one of them. So there are others in pharmaceutical industries. There are others that are targeting IT industry. So there will be quite a number. Currently, I'm aware about 70 are already here. Not even wanting to come, they're already here in Kenya.
And there are other major summits that have been held within this and a bit of last year in Kenya, including UNCTAD, the TICAD, and all these other summits. So as a business person, what are you reading in this? Is Kenya heading to the right direction? Or what is Kenya doing right to make sure that it attracts this kind of high-level business summit?
Yeah, I think there are many things that we can be proud of as Kenyans. The fact that you have all these companies coming here, one, I think, is to gain from the very, very, very hardworking culture that we have here in Kenya. The young population, energetic people. So there is, when I speak to people who are coming here, they look at just the environment, the people themselves, the capacity of the people. Of course, the weather is good, but also the infrastructure, the investment that we as Kenyans have made in telephony, for example. Just in 2015, 45% of Kenya's GDP was conducted through M-Pesa. So people are getting very interested to know, to just find out, what it is that we do. So there are a number of things that are attractive to foreign investors in this country, and those are just some of the things that I think the people is our biggest asset in this country. There is the infrastructure, of course. There is the weather.
Yes.
There is the ability to do business. Kenya has been right now. Has moved further than many other countries in terms of ease of doing business. That is, how easy is it to form a company? We've got a new Companies Act that has just been passed after almost 60 years of the old one. And it promises radical changes in the way of doing businesses, getting licenses. So there are very many things that are happening in this country that are attractive, of course, to the private investors coming from other parts of the world.
Yes.
Not to mention, of course, just the stability. We've had relative political stability. That is very important. That is very attractive to investors as well.
Thank you very much. Owen Koimburi is a managing partner of Mazda's company, trying to give us a curtain raise of that major summit that is going to happen tomorrow. That is the France-Africa Business Summit. Remember, our discussion tonight has everything to do with corruption in Africa. We did ask you earlier on a Twitter poll, who do you blame for corruption in Africa? We gave you three choices. Is it the government? Is it foreign interest at a time when we are seeing Chinese, French, and all these countries, having interest in the continent? And the last choice is Africans. Continue tweeting. Remember, our hashtag is Bottomline Africa. Our Twitter handle is at KTN News. You can as well tweet me at Yusuf Ibra. Our guests are on standby, ready with us in studio. We have political analyst Mark Bichachi. We're also going to be joined all the way from Kigali, Rwanda, by Taye Belgum from Africans Rising. All that after this very short break. Don't go too far. We'll be right back.